Tom, how do we fix our roads?
That's a good question. As you know, I drive a Jeep Wrangler, so I feel the potholes in our roads. We could do a much better job. I think the transportation bill that finally made it through creates some maybe a brighter future. That we will actually have the funds to fix the roads and the bridges. But I think we've got to reestablish transportation. It's one of my priorities, along with education, leveling the playing field, taking advantage of our natural resource responsibly and profitably. We've got to have a good transportation system, and I think we've got to figure out a way to pay for it with a broader revenue base than the one that this transportation bill does. So we need a broader revenue base for funding public transportation in general. We need a broader conversation about what that transportation infrastructure should look like. It's not just about fixing bridges. It's not just about fixing roads. It is about those things, but it's about so many other things. Like, we have 3 ports in Pennsylvania: Philadelphia, Erie, and Pittsburgh. How do we connect those ports with our transportation system? How about rail, high-speed rail?
What about the beautiful Susquehanna River? I mean, I kayak from Towanda to Pittston every year, 75 miles on the Susquehanna River. That river could have a riverboat that ran up from York to Cooperstown, the way they do in Europe if we spent a little money. All of those small river towns that 200 years ago were supported by river traffic could be brought back. I think we're missing the boat with our rivers and not spending enough.
We could. Now, the Susquehanna, I know this is the first time I've ever run, but it's not a good idea to argue with your host. But I'm going to argue with you here. The Susquehanna is actually the longest non-navigable river in the United States. And even in the early days, the way we did river navigation was with canals. Mm-hmm. So unless you want to bring, and railroads and roads have become much more efficient than canals in moving materials if we got out of the first part of the 19th century. So I'm not sure the Susquehanna would be the ideal route for boats, but it is, as someone who lives right on or near the Susquehanna River down in York County, it's a wonderful place to ride to paddle a kayak.
But it could also be used with those low draft for tourists.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I was talking about.
Okay, yeah.
To bring tourists into these communities.
Yeah. It's a the Susquehanna is something we undervalue as a resource. It's a beautiful treasure. It's a wonderful treasure.
Magnificent.
It is.
I can't let you go without asking the subject that is near and dear to my heart. For 40 years, I've represented people who are hurt on the job. Workers' compensation in Pennsylvania. Would you agree that safety net has to be kept in place?
Absolutely, and I don't think any company, ours included, does a perfect job, but we make every effort to make sure our workers work in a safe workplace. We have workers and safety committees. We spend a lot of time on this, and maybe even go over the top. But it is one of the fundamental rights of any worker that he or she will be in a workplace that is safe.
I'm hoping that Pennsylvania will have the strongest safety program in the nation, and they're beginning to crop up. You create a safe work environment, you put a guy like me out of business, because we're not going to have workers' compensation claims if we work safely.
That's right. Now,
Tom?
there is no perfect way to do it,
No.
but I would like to put you out of business.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Great to see you, and thank you, and lots of good luck, and come back and see us again, will you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you are disabled and unable to work, you may be entitled to Social Security benefits. In order to obtain benefits, you must prove your disability is severe enough to keep you from working. Social Security is financed through a dedicated payroll tax. If you have been paying taxes, then you have been paying into Social Security. And if you are no longer able to work, you've earned your rights to your Social Security benefits. Call the lawyers at O'Malley & Langen, representing Social Security claimants for a quarter of a century.